Real quick before the video starts, I'd like to thank you all for 1,000 subscribers. It really does mean a lot to me, you know, blah blah blah, you've heard it all before. But seriously, it really does mean a lot to me and makes me very happy. As I promised, I was gonna do a face reveal. Here's some pictures, and you're gonna have to guess which one is me, so have fun. Hey everyone, it's been a while since my last review, but I actually have an excuse other than being lazy this time. I was gonna make a review on these two figures. I wrote an entire script for it, but anyway, after a long grieving process, I'm back, and today we're going to be looking at the Bandai Robot Spirit Side Eva Evangelion. So yeah, this figure is based off the robot that the main character pilots in the show Neon Genesis Evangelion. And if you don't know what that show is about, it's about this boy named Shinji, and his dad tells him to get in the robot, and it's like this Monster of the Week show. And then despite how pretentious the show could get, I still really like the original show and ending movie. Sure, the characters are kind of insufferable, and the show is ridiculously confusing at times. But in spite of all of its problems with its gorgeous art direction, well-written characters, and great soundtrack, it tells a beautiful story about depression, guilt, loss, and survival. However, this figure isn't actually based on the show but the Rebuild movies. I haven't seen the Rebuild movies because I'm not watching that shite, but the design for Unit 1 is basically the same in both versions, so I just got it anyway. And oh man, is it a cool design, and it is captured perfectly in this sculpt. It literally looks like it was taken straight from the source material. But this is a design that's been captured well in a sculpt a million times before, because there is just so much Evangelion merch, like a ridiculous amount. Some merch makes you wonder what dishonorable failure would buy it, and other merch makes you wonder what entity would buy it. Why does this exist? Back to the point, the design has been done 1,000 times before in toy form, which is why I think that the main seller is the paint. It's super clean, all the colours are the perfect shade, and there's some gorgeous metallic paint on the silver parts and the eyes to give it that glowy look that Eva Unit 1 has. Every little detail is there, it just looks so good and so accurate, I can scream! Now my last experience with Bandai figures wasn't the best, but this figure actually feels pretty good. The joints are responsive and relatively smooth and tight, but one thing about this figure that doesn't feel good is swapping the hands. I find myself having to use a hairdryer every time I want to swap the hands because they're just so hard to take off and on that it feels like I'm going to break the peg that holds them. To be honest, I just wish all figures would have the same advanced technology that Makex has, just to not make it a pain to swap out hands. Speaking of hands, you get 7 pairs of hands, those being fists, open hands, relaxed open hands, thinning hands, prickle pulling hands, grabbing hands, and a special pair of hands to hold the Spear of Kathia, which also has some beautiful sculpting and painting. I have no idea what this thing is because it's only in the movies, which again I haven't seen, but it does look really cool. There was the Spear of Longinus in the original show, but that one was used by Eva. To get her to hold it, yes it's a her, you just slide one part in and then plug the other one in. You also get a combat knife and pallet rifle too, and they are gorgeously sculpted and painted. Although they look pretty bland by themselves by design, they still look pretty cool when the figure is holding them. One really cool thing is that you get a spare horn in case you break the other one. I always make sure to take off the horn when I'm posing or switching out the hands because it seems pretty fragile, but this is still really nice and I wish more figures would do stuff like this. What isn't cool is that you're given this thing which you clamp onto her crotch, which you're obviously meant to plug into a stand, but you don't get one. Kind of a piss take, but okay. I guess you're meant to buy one separately, but I can't because I spent all my money on the Eva 1. Loved her. Now I'm 90% sure these gripping hands are based off that one time where Eva Unit 1 rips apart an AT field, but no AT field. Sure, that's a tiny bit annoying that there's no AT field accessory, but do we really need another AT field in our lives? Of course, in the show it's this big orange wall that angels use to protect themselves, but all humans come with one themselves, an invisible AT field that tries to protect us from others. Sure, it's sometimes useful, like when you're avoiding a shady stranger, but for most people, their AT field is too strong and it prevents us from being able to socialize and shuts us off from the people we love. An invisible boundary made to protect people, but in the end, only really hurts them. Rather than it being something to be mad at, it should be seen as a tool that can be harnessed and used, to keep it up when we want to utilize it, and then just cease it when we have the desire to make a meaningful connection with someone, even if it's unrequited. to still just try and not be restrained by some sort of invisible field that only hurts you and no one else. For a lot of people, they haven't been able to control their EQ field themselves, and it ends up hurting them. Me either. That's all the accessories, but there's one feature of this figure that I forgot to mention.
I'm over here stroking my dick, I got lotion on my dick.
This is probably a good time to mention that the Evas aren't actually robots, but are fleshy creatures with metal armor that can be piloted, and sometimes they come alive and move by themselves. But yeah, look at them teeth. I think it would have been really cool if there was an alternate Berserk head for the moments when she has like human teeth, which only happens sometimes. The show's confusing, okay, but this still looks really cool. Anyway, time to talk about the articulation. I'm not animating these sections anymore because you guys seem to hate when I animate for some reason. Jaw is on the hinge joint. The head has a ton of movement because of how articulated the neck is. These shoulder blades are on a ball joint. Armpit joint. Arm goes out and all around. Bicep swivel. Bend at the elbow. Elbow swivel. Wrist swivel. Some up and down side to side at the hand depending on how you angle the joint. These breastplates are also on the hinge joint. Every crease in this upper body has a ball joint in it, which gives it some really good posability. Leg kicks forward, back, legs spread out a little. Thigh swivel, double jointed knee. This little appendage is also articulated. Ball joint on this thing, up and down at the foot, swivel, a pivot, and a toe bend. The articulation is perfect. I don't really have anything else to say about it. Yeah, so one problem that I have is I don't actually have any other figures of giant characters in the same scale as this, since the Eva is meant to be pretty big to say the least. I'm just showing these so you can get an idea of what the figure generally looks like next to others. Also the price. I got this figure for £70, which is a little steep, but I'd say it was completely worth it. This figure, besides the size, is literally everything I could ask for. It looks incredible. My only complaint is the lack of a stand, and maybe it could have had like one more accessory like that alternate head I was talking about. But besides that, even though I've never really been into kaijus or mechs, this is honestly one of the best figures I've ever bought. 9 out of 10, like and subscribe. Okay, time for the photos.